The headlines don't reveal it. Official statements avoid it. But something much larger is forming before our eyes. Israel, a small dot on the Middle East map, is at this very moment being silently surrounded, not by chance, not by isolated maneuvers, but by a strategic, gradual and calculated movement involving at least 5 nations with a history of hostility, hidden alliances and intentions that go far beyond politics. This video will show you with facts, connections and prophetic clues how this siege is tightening and why it could trigger the next great global conflict. It all begins with the echoes of the latest ballistic attack on Tel Aviv. While the world's attention focused on the Houthi militia in Yemen and the Palestine-2 Missile, Iran quietly intensified its direct and indirect involvement on several fronts. Satellite images show bases being reactivated in Damascus, ships repositioned in the Red Sea, and Russian air defense systems being moved to strategic areas near Israeli territory. But why this joint move now? And why are these 5 nations in particular positioning themselves as pieces in a prophetic chess game? Let's start with Iran. There is no longer any doubt that Tehran is at the center of the tension. Financing Hezbollah in Lebanon, arming the Houthis in Yemen, supporting Shiite militias in Syria and Iraq. Its drones have already invaded Israeli airspace, and its missiles daily test the limits of the Iron Dome system. Iran does not act alone. It orchestrates, and around it the arms of the siege spring up. No north, the Hezbollah is strengthening in southern Lebanon. Recently, new cross-border tunnels were detected, deeper and better structured than the previous ones. Reports reveal that the group has received new precision rocket systems capable of striking strategic targets in the heart of Israel with surgical lethality. Hassan Nasrallah's rhetoric leaves no doubt. We are ready to act when the moment arrives. But who decides that moment? From the side east, Syria, devastated by civil war, has become Iran's military backyard. Tehran-controlled militias operate freely on the outskirts of Damascus, while Israel tries in vain to prevent the logistical advance of weapons entering across the Iraqi border. What was once an internal conflict has now become the strategic corridor connecting Iran to Lebanon, creating a highly dangerous military axis. Further south, the Yemeni Houthis are solidifying themselves as the surprise arm of this plan. No one expected a tribal militia to develop or receive long-range missiles like the Palestine-2, capable of crossing more than 1,500 kilometers into central Israel. But the recent attack shows that the improbable is already happening. And if a rebel group in Yemen achieved this with Iranian support, what else is being prepared, hidden from the world's eyes? And finally, there is the Russia. Officially, Moscow declares neutrality, but its actions reveal otherwise. The deployment of S-300 and S-400 systems to Syria, the sharing of intelligence with Iran, and the systematic veto of any UN resolution favorable to Israel demonstrate that Russia positions itself as a key player, not only militarily, but prophetically. After all, it is no coincidence that Ezekiel 38 mentions a northern power called Gog of the land of Magog, leading a coalition against Israel. When we connect these 5 actors, Iran, Hezbollah, Syria, the Houthis, and Russia, what we have is not just a geopolitical threat. It's the architecture of a siege of apocalyptic proportions, an alignment that transcends borders and fits, point by point, into the map of biblical prophecy. The siege is forming, and the lines of attack are approaching Jerusalem, the spiritual center of the earth. But the most disturbing part is yet to come, because this isn't just a war of missiles and tanks. What's at stake is a war of narratives, of control over the truth. The international mainstream media softens, omits, or distorts the facts. It portrays Israel as an oppressor, even when it is the one under siege. Meanwhile, alternative voices are silenced, content is demonetized, and the world's eyes slowly close to what is about to happen. Within the siege, there is a strategic silence, but there is also a prophetic movement. In Jerusalem, the movement for the return of sacrifices on the Temple Mount is growing. Rabbis and spiritual leaders speak openly about the need to rebuild the Third Temple, and this topic, charged with spiritual significance, is a trigger for even greater conflicts. For Israel's enemies, the temple is seen as a provocation. For Christians attentive to prophecy, it is a clear sign. The stage is being set for the final events described in Revelation. As all this unfolds, you, watching this video now, need to understand. What's happening is not just a series of isolated attacks. It's a plan, a script that follows a pattern described thousands of years ago. And if all of this is truly aligning, we need to be more vigilant than ever. The noose is tightening. The line between regional war and global conflict is increasingly blurred. And given all this, the question remains: how much time is left before the first shot of the final confrontation is heard? Perhaps it has already happened, not with a missile, but with a silent move across a forgotten border. Or perhaps it is yet to come, with a surprise attack that will change everything in a single night. As the geopolitical siege on Israel intensifies, there's another layer that many overlook: the silent, behind-the-scenes nature of the conflict. While the world's eyes are fixed on the missiles streaking across the skies of Tel Aviv, there are movements taking place underground, in the corridors of diplomacy, in espionage networks, and in the hidden codes of international alliances. And it's precisely in these behind-the-scenes realities that the real game is being played. Recent Western intelligence reports suggest that a new, secret meeting between representatives of Iran, Hezbollah, and the Syrian regime took place in Beirut, where joint actions against strategic Israeli positions, not only military but also civilian, were discussed. The idea behind this? To provoke an extreme Israeli response that could justify, before the international community, a formal coalition strike under the banner of defending the Islamic peoples. This would completely change the world's perception of the conflict and place Israel in an even more dangerous position of diplomatic isolation. At the same time, there are signs that Hamas, even weakened in the Gaza Strip, is regrouping. But the most surprising thing isn't Hamas itself, but rather the logistical support it has been receiving from foreign agents who, until recently, remained neutral. What does this show? That the war is no longer being fought solely with traditional weapons. There is a cyber war underway, silent and devastating. Israel, recognized as one of the greatest powers in defensive technology, has been the target of hundreds of cyber attacks in recent days. Electrical infrastructure, healthcare systems, transportation, all have been targeted. Behind this, there are concrete suspicions of the involvement of Iranian hacker groups with technical support from Russia and China. This silent triple alliance aims not only to weaken Israel from within, but also to test the resilience of Israeli society in times of crisis. And if history has shown us anything, it's that modern wars are not won solely on the battlefield, but also in the realm of information, narrative, and social resistance. But what perhaps few have realized is how this war is also being used as a smokescreen for other interests. For example, in the last 72 hours, there has been a significant increase in Turkish troop movements in regions near northern Syria and Iraqi Kurdistan. Officially, these are internal security operations, but military analysts believe Turkey is preparing to take a more active role in the conflict, not necessarily alongside Iran, but seeking to capitalize on the chaos to expand its regional influence. This further complicates the situation. Meanwhile, Israel is stepping up its shadow diplomacy. Emergency meetings are being held with representatives from Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Egypt. All countries that, despite not having a formal alliance with Israel, see Iran's advance as a common threat. The challenge: none of these countries want to publicly commit. as they face strong internal and religious pressures. What is forming is a network of silent cooperation based on the principle, the enemy of my enemy is my ally. This complex dynamic leaves the average viewer feeling lost. After all, who's really with whom? The answer isn't simple because alliances are volatile, shifting according to interests and the moment. And so, every attack, every response, every move on the board must be analyzed carefully. Nothing happens by chance. Amidst all this, a question lingers. What about the civilian population? What happens to the thousands of Israeli civilians living on high alert, with sirens blaring at all hours of the day and night? What happens to the children of Tel Aviv who learned before they could read or write to run for bomb shelters? These are the invisible faces of this war, faces that don't make the headlines, but who are the greatest victims of this endless conflict. And yet, parallel to the human drama and the geopolitical game, something even deeper is growing. The feeling that we are indeed facing a point of no return. Ancient prophecies, once thought distant, now resonate with disturbing clarity. It's not just the literal fulfillment of Ezekiel or Revelation that draws attention, but the spirit of it all, the collective sense that the world is being prepared for a great revelation, a turning point, a collapse, followed by a reordering. The global elite observes, but doesn't intervene. The media reports but omits. The masses watch but don't understand. And that's why channels like yours become so necessary, because here the curtain is pulled back. Here what's hidden is revealed. And not because we have all the answers, but because we dare to ask the right questions, those that disturb, that awaken, that confront. Right now, the world is more connected than ever, but also more vulnerable. A mistimed shot, an explosion at a nuclear facility, an out of control, retaliation, and everything changes. We live in a time where decisions are made in minutes, but the effects last decades. And those who aren't alert, those who don't discern the signs, will be swallowed up in the maelstrom of disinformation. And perhaps most disturbing of all is the realization that the siege is not just physical, but also spiritual. It's not just Israel that's being besieged. It's truth, it's faith, it's conscience. There's a siege on minds, a clear attempt to manipulate what people think, feel, and believe. And that's why this war doesn't end with a ceasefire. It goes beyond. It transcends the visible and echoes in the invisible. So, while the world sleeps, there are those who watch. There are those who cry out. There are those who still observe the signs with the eyes of revelation. And if you're watching this video now, it's because you're also part of this attentive remnant. So, write in the comments if you also realize that the siege is not just military, it is spiritual, or comment, I'm not blind, I see the signs. Because together here, we will continue to reveal what needs to be revealed. The truth will not be suppressed. And as long as there is a space for voice, it will be proclaimed. The siege is closing in, but the surveillance is just beginning.